Have you ever wondered where your tax money really goes? In the Philippines, a country frequently battered by typhoons and floods, billions are allocated for flood control. But what if a huge chunk of that money, meant to protect lives and homes, simply vanished into thin air? Today, we're diving deep into the massive Philippine flood control scandal, a story of corruption, ghost projects, and the courageous fight for accountability. Picture this. It's 2025, and a bombshell report drops. An internal audit reveals a staggering truth. Out of 545 billion pesos, or roughly 9.2 billion US dollars, allocated for flood control projects since 2022, a significant portion was misappropriated. We're talking about ghost projects that existed only on paper. We're talking about substandard materials, shoddy construction, and costs inflated to ridiculous levels. A Reuters investigation uncovered some shocking details. For instance, out of over 2,000 accredited contractors, just 15 of them bagged a massive 20% of the entire budget. Think about that concentration of funds. Even more bizarre, some projects in completely different locations were reported to have the exact same cost, down to the last peso. How is that even possible? This wasn't just a few bad apples. The scandal implicated numerous officials, from local government units all the way up to members of Congress, and even the former Public Works Secretary, Manuel Banoan. Then came the whistleblowers. Brave individuals came forward, testifying to AP News that the corruption was systemic. They claimed that most projects undertaken since 2019 were either substandard or deliberately overpriced. Why? To cover kickbacks. These whistleblowers alleged that a minimum of 20% of the project cost was funneled back to legislators and other officials. This isn't just about stolen money. It's about compromised safety. Every peso siphoned off meant a weaker flood wall, a shallower drainage canal, and a community left vulnerable to the next big storm. The very infrastructure designed to save people was being built on a foundation of deceit. As the details of the scandal spread like wildfire, public outrage exploded. People took to the streets and social media demanding action and justice. The government, facing immense pressure, had to respond. One of the first major steps was the immediate suspension of all ongoing flood control projects in provinces like Oriental Mindoro. This happened after major discrepancies were found in a 3 billion peso project right there in Nuyugan town, as reported by the Philippine Information Agency. It was a clear signal that business as usual was over. To prevent this from happening again, the Department of Finance, according to the PCO Mirror, stepped in to impose much stricter approval processes for new flood control projects. The era of easy money and rubber-stamped approvals was coming to an end. This meant more scrutiny, more paperwork, and a higher bar for any project to get the green light. The goal was to plug the leaks in the system that allowed public funds to be so easily misused. But the public wanted more than just internal government fixes. An alliance of 30 of the country's most influential business and civic organizations banded together, demanding an independent third-party investigation. They knew that for true accountability, you couldn't have the system investigate itself. Their call, reported by Reuters, was for a deep dive into all government infrastructure projects, with a special focus on the flood control sector that had become a hotbed for corruption. This coalition represented a powerful voice from the private sector and civil society, adding immense weight to the call for transparency. And in a move that was both symbolic and practical, the government inaugurated a new detention facility in Manila. As reported by the AP News, this wasn't just any jail, it was specifically designated for public officials and their accomplices implicated in this very corruption scandal. The message was clear. If you are found guilty of stealing from the people, you will have a new home waiting for you. This was a tangible step towards ensuring that justice would not only be sought, but also be seen to be served. So, where do we go from here? Exposing the scandal and making initial arrests is just the beginning. The real challenge is rebuilding a system that has been eroded by corruption and, more importantly, rebuilding the public's trust. The path forward requires a multi-pronged approach, focusing on long-term, sustainable solutions. First and foremost, we need radical transparency. The government must embrace technology to fight corruption. Imagine a system where every single project is tracked online in real time, a public dashboard where any citizen can see the project's budget, the contractors involved, the timeline and the progress, complete with photos and daily updates. Implementing digital tracking systems would make it incredibly difficult to create ghost projects or inflate costs without someone noticing. This would turn every Filipino with an internet connection into a potential watchdog. Second, accountability must be swift and unsparing. The wheels of justice often turn slowly, but in cases of such massive public plunder, there needs to be a sense of urgency. The independent investigations must be thorough and impartial, ensuring that everyone involved, regardless of their position or political affiliation, is held accountable. This means not just filing cases, but securing convictions and recovering the stolen assets. Only when people see that there are real, severe consequences for corruption will the deterrent be effective. Third, we need to think about the money that was already allocated. With many projects suspended, what happens to those funds? The Senate of the Philippines has proposed a brilliant idea: reallocate these funds to other critical and often underfunded sectors. Imagine redirecting billions of pesos from fraudulent flood control projects to building new classrooms, hiring more teachers, upgrading public hospitals, and providing better healthcare services. This not only prevents the money from being stolen, but also addresses other urgent needs of the Filipino people, turning a crisis into an opportunity. Finally, and perhaps most importantly, is the role of the community. We can't rely solely on the government to police itself. Civic engagement is the bedrock of a healthy democracy. We need to empower and protect whistleblowers and create safe channels for citizens to report irregularities without fear of reprisal. Community-based monitoring, where local residents are trained and mobilized to oversee projects in their own backyards, can be an incredibly effective tool. When the people themselves are involved in guarding their own resources, corruption finds it much harder to thrive. The Philippine flood control scandal is a painful chapter, a story of betrayal and greed, but it is also a story of resilience, courage, and hope. It shows that when citizens, the media, and conscientious officials work together, they can expose the darkness and demand change. By implementing these measures, enhancing transparency, strengthening accountability, reallocating funds wisely, and promoting civic engagement, the Philippines can move beyond this scandal. It can build not just stronger flood defenses, but a stronger, more transparent, and more accountable government that truly serves the safety and well-being of its people. The road to recovery is long, but it is a journey worth taking. Thank you so much for watching. What are your thoughts on this? How can we ensure our taxes are used properly? Let me know in the comments below. If you found this video informative, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to the channel for more deep dives into important issues. Stay informed and stay engaged.